My name's Michael. So welcome to Taking Back Ohio's first, kayaking and recovery event. We hope to do this about twice a year in the future. It's somewhere we can get active in recovery and have fun. So we're not just going to meetings all the time. I have a few things I want to go over real quick. Everybody should have got a program when they registered. The bathrooms, if you haven't been there yet, are out this door around the back of the building. It's going to be required to wear a life jacket when we go kayaking, so be prepared for that. They have double kayaks. If you do get a double kayak, the strongest of the two in the kayak should be in the back. Lisa is our host. She's the owner of Lake Erie Adventure Company. Her and her daughters are going to help us get in the kayaks a little bit later. While we're kayaking, lunch is going to be delivered, and then we'll have a couple of people in recovery sharing their experience, strength, and hope during lunch after we kayak. Berardi's is providing lunch, so Tony from Berardi's here on. They've been gracious enough to provide lunch for us. Of course, I want to thank Lexis and her husband Brett Bauer from CrossFit Port Clinton for coming out. And I want to thank Christine and Damien for having the willingness to share their lived experience with us today. So let's do it, Lexis.
Awesome. Thanks for having me. So if you guys don't know me, I'm Lexis Bauer. I'm the owner of CrossFit Port Clinton in Port Clinton, Ohio. I see some familiar faces. So when you guys think of CrossFit, what's like the first thing that comes to your mind? I can't do that? Okay. And guys, this is going to be like super interactive for the next 20 to 30 minutes. So you can just kind of like shout answers out at me. Weights, okay. Jumping, box jump. Ropes, okay. Burpees, yeah, okay. Those are all great things that come to my mind too, except, what's your name? Christy. I can't do it. Why don't you think you can do it? Okay. So the great part about CrossFit is we can tailor it to every single person's ability level. So we kind of just like meet you where you're at. There, in a class, we could have up to 20 people, and there could be somebody that could do pull-ups, but maybe we're not there yet. So you're going to be doing something completely different. The funny part is everybody said sweat, weights, things that you do with your body, movement, right? But nobody said that. Can you guys see that? Nutrition. The base of the pyramid is nutrition, what we think in CrossFit. And I'm going to come back to this in a little bit, but I just want to stick that in your brain for right now. When you guys think of health or living a healthy lifestyle, what do you think of? And you guys are going to shout it out, and I'm going to start kind of making a list up here. Exercise? What does healthy eating mean? Whole foods? Okay. What else? What else does health mean to you guys? What do you do to help with your mental health? Awesome. Connection. Social life. I think that's super important. Support. Nobody said this yet. Yeah? All of these things represent our health, and it kind of comes back to the base of the pyramid. You can't outwork a bad diet. For many of us who are in recovery, when you were using, actually below that nutrition, if you kind of put this pyramid, what was the base of your life? Nothing was more important than that, right? So it didn't matter nutrition or anything up here, like in CrossFit we say metabolic conditioning, weightlifting, cardiovascular, and sport is at the top. But none of that mattered because drugs and alcohol were the base of your life. Every single thing that you did when you were using revolved around drugs and alcohol. So when we're in recovery, you have to replace what you used to do in your previous life with things that are going to keep you healthy. When you were using drugs or alcohol, we have to replace those with healthy behaviors, right? Food and nutrition there's a reward system in our brain, and every single activity that you guys do throughout your day gets kind of ranked in this reward system in your brain. When you were using drugs and alcohol were the absolute highest dopamine response that you ever received, right? And so we are trying to replace that dopamine response with other things that create a similar dopamine response. And that's what is going to keep you successful in recovery. We have to find those things that release that same dopamine response in your brain so you can stay sober. What are some of those things? And you guys listed them, or listed a couple of them already before I exercise. So you could replace drugs with exercise. I was just having a conversation with somebody at our gym this morning who's in recovery, and he was like, my addictive personality, it's kind of working to my benefit with exercise now, because I'm literally replacing drugs with movement. It's crazy how that works. Your brain literally can consider exercise like a drug, like it previously did, because it's creating that same response in your brain. What are some other things besides exercise? Arts and crafts. So you could replace alcohol with arts and crafts. Name some other things. Community. What do you do when you're with your community? Ooh, I like that word, accountability. I know Miranda likes to do this, but be in nature, right? That can create a dopamine response in your brain. It also helps regulate your circadian rhythm so you can sleep better at night. Being in nature helps with that. So basically, we need to replace the not healthy dopamine responses with our healthy ones. That's what I'm kind of getting at here. And you can kind of think of this as a bike wheel, and there's different spokes on that bike. You're trying to put as many spokes on that wheel as possible to help you in recovery. So if that's exercise, if that's arts and crafts, if that's surrounding yourself with like-minded people at AA meetings, or a community it doesn't have to be CrossFit, but a community like CrossFit or exercising, all of those are going to help you in your recovery journey. What happens if one of those spokes go out in your wheel? If you were riding a bike, it's super wobbly. So, okay, if one or two fall out or stop working, it's okay. But what if 3 or 4 fall out? Is that bike going to keep moving? No. So the more that you can add to your bike wheel, the more successful that you'll be in recovery. We truly believe that movement is medicine at CrossFit, and it's the best thing that you can do in order to create that dopamine response in your brain with CrossFit for recovery. How can you relate CrossFit to recovery? So going back to nutrition, since you guys aren't using it anymore, we can erase that, right? So the base of the pyramid is nutrition. When you think nutrition, what do you think of? Eat the rainbow. Yeah, I like it. What else? 100%. When I think of nutrition, there's one word that Miranda just used, and it's protein. But every single food that you eat falls into 3 different categories, and we call those categories macronutrients. Miranda gave us one. Does anybody know the other 2? Carbs, and it is carbohydrates. I'm just going to write carbs. And I'm sorry, what did you say? Fats. Throw some food at me. What have you guys ate today? I'm going to start putting it into these different categories. I'm sorry, what did you say? Avocado would be a fat, but then bread would be a carb. What else?
I had like an apple and it wasn't always a standard. Pizza.
Pizza? Could probably be in fat as well. What else? Banana. Cheerios. Greek yogurt's hard. It could be both, but I'll put it here because it does have some. I'm not sure. So what you'll find is, like, if you would look on the back of the nutrition label, a lot of food has a couple of these in it. So I'm placing the food in what has the highest. So Greek yogurt typically has a higher protein content than carbs. That's why I'm putting it there. Milk, spinach, berries. What do you think, Michael? Chickpeas? Yeah? Anybody eat steak? Eggs? I mean, let's be real. Has somebody ate chips in the past week? Okay. Has anybody ate candy? Yeah? Cake? You get the idea, okay? As you guys were shouting foods at me, I put the less processed foods at the top and the more processed foods on the bottom. And if you look, or if you think to a grocery store, if you're not sure what like processed foods are, if you think to a grocery store, the less processed foods are going to be on the outside of the grocery store, okay? The more processed foods are on the inside. Do you know why that they do that? So it's harder to get to, their shelf life is a lot higher than your fruits and vegetables on the outside of the grocery store. It's a lot easier to make your way around the outside of the grocery store for them to replenish that than on the inside of the grocery store. You're exactly right. The shelf life is much higher. CrossFit's prescription of nutrition is eating meat and vegetables, nuts and seeds, some fruit, little starch, no sugar. Is that realistic? It's realistic. Is it hard to get there?
It's hard to get.
So what we like to say is, if you start at the bottom of this list, just try to make one swap a week. That is going to create that sustainable lifestyle. We don't like to call it a diet because it's going to be a forever thing. Okay? So just making those small changes. Instead of eating cake 5 days a week, maybe you only eat it 3 days a week, right? And maybe you can replace that cake for a handful of berries instead. What I really want to stress though is health. One other thing that affects our brain the same as drugs and alcohol, it creates that same dopamine response, and it's not good for you, is this: sugar. If we already have that addictive mindset and that addictive personality, and it's in our brains already, it is so easy to get addicted to sugar. I was just reading a book and they were comparing sugar and heroin. That's how addictive it is. How do we cut that out? It's hard. It's really, really hard. Just like getting sober was hard, right? But if we cut this out, and I mean, you could literally put this at the bottom. If you cut it out, you're going to reap the benefits of it. You're going to feel healthier. You're going to overall feel better. Your energy levels are going to drastically increase. When's the last time you guys looked at food that you eat or drinks that you eat at your nutrition fact label? Do you do it often? You should look and see at how much added sugar is in whatever you're drinking or eating. It is mind-boggling. How much is that? I just have to...
They say there's 39 grams of added sugar, which is 78%.
So if you think of that, your body can only handle about 4 grams of sugar at a time. I think it's between 3 and 4. What happens with all the rest of that sugar in your body? It turns to fat. It starts accumulating around your cells, and then that is when it turns to fat and you start that obesity trend, unfortunately. You don't need sugar. So you are going to get sugar with like your fruits. Yep, there's fructose in, fructose is a form of sugar and it's going to be in your fruit. I would never tell you to cut fruit out. It's a natural, there's no added sugars. What we're looking for is the added sugars in food. So yeah, if you could cut that out completely, that would be amazing. Very, very hard task, but yeah, really good. You can think of sugar as a piece of toast. Somebody said it earlier. Before you put your bread in a toaster, what color is your piece of bread? Just for this analogy, let's use white bread. It's white. You put it in the toaster, and when it pops up, what color is the toast then? Brown. What happens if you crank that number up to 10 and it comes out of the toaster? It's black. That's the same thing that what sugar does to your body. If you have a little bit of sugar like in your fruits, that's okay, right? You're still going to turn out fine. It's a golden piece of toast, perfect toast. But if you put too much sugar in your body, you're literally toasting yourself. You're toasting your organs, your brain, your eyes. Any questions for me?
I kind of do.
Yeah. I feel like there is like that trend of like a low carb diet. I would say you don't need to give up carbs completely. I would say limit your processed carbs, right? So the carbs that are at the bottom of this list, fruit and vegetables, I mean, those are considered carbohydrates, and I would never say to give those up. Did that kind of answer your question? I mean, it's interesting, yeah. I mean, alcohol would, go into your body. It would end up turning to sugar, yes, because it's a carb. Is there one thing from this conversation that you could switch in your life next week or starting today? And you don't even need to shout it out, but just in your head, if you can be thinking of one thing to change to help you live a healthier lifestyle. I like that. Being more active. Movement is medicine. Those two things in itself, being more active and reading nutrition labels, a great place to start. If any of you are interested in coming to CrossFit for a week of classes for free, there's some QR codes on the table and also in your guys' bags. You can literally just scan that QR code. Our email's on there and stuff as well. Just reach out to us. Okay, we would love to have you guys in. This is very similar talks that we do after a lot of our classes together, but we move for about an hour and then we talk to you guys about nutrition. It's a great environment, super supportive, so we'd love to have you guys. If you don't have any other questions for me, I'll hand it back over to you, Michael.
Thank you, Leslie.
Absolutely.